It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The men's basketball national championship is set for this evening as Houston and Florida will play for it all tonight in San Antonio. You can hear that game on The Zone following 3HL. The offseason has begun for the Vols men's basketball team as they had two commitments from the portal over the weekend as former Belmont and Maryland guard Jacoby Gillespie and former Vanderbilt forward Jalen Carey both committed to the Vols over the weekend. Tennessee baseball dropped down to number 5 in the Division I baseball rankings after losing their series to Texas A&M 2-1. The Vols will look to get back on track with a midweek game against Alabama State tomorrow before heading to Oxford to take on Ole Miss in a weekend series. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number, and we have some Tennessee Titans breaking news right to start the show.
Yes, the computer screen does not work.
Introducing the Titans' new play-by-play announcer, Taylor Zarjor. Does anybody know how to pronounce that last name, by the way?
Zarzor.
But he is now the Titans broadcast announcer. Has been announced by Jim Wyatt and the Tennessee Titans to be one of the quotes, to be voice of a team in a town my wife and I have always dreamed of living in. I can't believe it, and I am super excited about it. So it is, there you go, the new voice of the Tennessee Titans, Taylor Zarjor. That's how I'm pronouncing it until someone tells me otherwise.
Joshua.
Do you know anything about Taylor Zarjor?
No. I saw it was reported that was 2 weeks ago. You know, there are 3 finalists, and he was on there. So I don't know much about him at all.
Well, I know that is reported, I think, by Terry McCormick, who covers Tennessee Titans. He said that Jim Nantz speaks very highly of him, and Jim Nantz maybe got a little personal recommendation to the Tennessee Titans on behalf of Taylor Zarjor.
Yeah. Hey, I love Jim Nantz, but you got to be careful when you start, recommending people. I mean, Peyton Manning's recommended a lot of coaches, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And
Adam Gase, one of them
didn't work out.
Adam Gase was
a lot of them didn't work out because guess what? They don't have Peyton Manning.
There you go.
So, hey, good that he get a recommendation from a stud like that, though, Jim Nantz. That's pretty awesome.
In addition to being the team's play-by-play announcer, Zarjor will host both the Brian Callahan Show radio program and Titans Football with Brian Callahan television show, as well as various other interviews and events. The full 2025 Titans broadcast team will be finalized in the near future. He started off as the co-host for the morning sports page on Sports Radio 560 in Nashville. Before returning to his hometown of Mobile, where he served as the program director and afternoon host of Sports Radio 105.5 WNSP. And he began his broadcasting career as a sports reporter for WEAR TV, WEAR TV in Pensacola, Florida. I know that most SEC fans know him for his role as play-by-play commentator for SEC Network's Saturday afternoon college football games. He joined ESPN back in 2015 and also called college baseball games. And he is also host and director for SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio and serves as the radio voice for golf's major championships. And he's working the Masters Golf Tournament this week.
Yeah, that's where I think I know him from. Yeah, I definitely have.
It is pronounced Zarzur.
Yeah, Zarzur.
Well, we got someone saying Zarzar, so I don't know. Just call him Tay-Z. I like it. We'll call him Tay-Z. So congratulations to him. That is finally finalized. I know there was a lot of people that have kept asking us if we knew of anything that was happening. We did not, but here you go. We got it. Yeah. Other than that, there was some basketball this weekend. Some pretty intense, some great basketball. Florida defeated number 1 Auburn 79-73. I know that made your bracket happy, and I think it made this entire show happy. I know that there's some Florida angst from Tennessee fans, but I think I just don't like Auburn. So, roll Tide. Can't root for Auburn, so I had to root for Florida. You made your bracket happy. What'd you think of the game?
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. Well, where's the angst with Auburn? Why you don't like Auburn?
Alabama fan.
Oh, that's why. Oh, my.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't know if that carried over in the football,
it carries over to everything.
basketball.
It carries over to marching band, baton twirling.
Oh, I thought you liked Bruce Pearl or something.
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I am anti-Auburn.
Well, naturally, okay. Well, it makes sense. I had Florida winning it all, so I was cheering actually for Florida in this game. Very rarely have I cheered against Bruce Pearl, but I like the way they play. I like the way they play as team. They understand their roles, and different players at different points in time can increase their role as far as scores. They all play well together. Naturally, Clayton Jr. is on a hot heat streak right now that is unbelievable. So that's really why I'm picking them, and hopefully they win. But it will be a tough task versus Houston. One thing that got me off my couch, though, man, and I jumped up and down when that Martin kid did that dunk.
Oh, man, that was awesome.
Ooh, that was incredible. So that man, that was it. I mean, then they kind of pulled away, and Auburn hung in there at the end there when Florida kind of took control of the game. But it was close back and forth. I thought Broome, it came back to haunt him. He did in the SEC tournament. He didn't hit about 4 free throws. When you're the SEC Player of the Year, you got to hit 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I mean, that might have been really the difference. And then my guy, I call him Ha, but it's pronounced Hawk. I love him, and he came through with some big shots and some free throws there. But I love all their size, their versatility, and I'm hoping they get it done, and maybe I can get one right every now and then. Squirrel finds a nut every now and then, so we'll see. Florida could be Houston, man. Houston, oh my God.
Let's talk about it. On the flip side, a little bit of controversy at the end, but Duke drops to Houston 70-67 in an epic battle. It was awesome to watch. It was basically just Houston wearing down Duke, and you could see that Duke didn't have quite the endurance left and fuel in the tank left for the final minutes, and they just went. And it was insane because it's one of those games where you look at the ESPN's win probability, Blaine, and it just is like Houston or Duke, and then all of a sudden shoots up for Houston at 100%, which is insane. And I think Charles Barkley put it best: will beat skill. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I talked to Charles. He was definitely hurt by the Auburn loss because I sent him a picture of the people were on Twitter showing him just going agonizing and everything else, and so I sent him the picture, and then he texts back. I said, "Hey man, that was a tough loss there, bro." I forgot. I'm gonna tell you what he said, but it was a one word like, no, they earned it though. But that one there is man. I'm gonna just say this. Duke was the best team in the tournament, and come to realize that they had never been in any close games. Is that true, Jackson? Because when I'm gonna just say this, it was borderline they choked. And why I say that is they couldn't even get an inbound. They missed the free throws, the front end of 1-and-1s. And then your man, Flag, he played well from 3-point line, but I think it was 5 for 14 or something from 2-point. And he missed the game winner. So I feel like they somewhat choked because they had never been in that tight moment before. And until you go through that, can you say that you'll be prepared for it in the moment?
Well, we talked on Friday when we were previewing the show about could the experience, the tournament experience and game experience of not only just the coach of Houston, but the players of Houston be a major factor. And I know a lot of people want to complain about the refs, but questionable
call there on Flag.
It was, but you watched a team score one basket over the final 10 minutes of the game and blow a 6-point lead and possession of the basketball with 1:14 left to go, and then you're going to blame the refs refs. I mean, again, I understand refs make bad calls in every game, but this was a physical game, a physical matchup, and Houston eventually just hung around long enough that they were able to use their experience, their endurance, and their toughness to overtake
their
Duke.
mental toughness. And L.J. Cryer kept them in the game in that first half. I think he hit a 3 right before half, kind of cut it to 6 or something at halftime. But he was the guy that kept them in the game, and then they kind of hung on, and then their mental toughness and wherewithal, who they are as a team, and Calvin Sampson, finally happy that he getting a shot to win a national title.
Yeah. What did you find out, Jackson?
So they didn't have a lot of close wins. They were in some close games that they lost, but the majority of their wins are scores like 100 to 65 against Florida State, 93 to 60 against Wake Forest, 82 to 69 against UNC. They had one close win against UNC.
Yeah, it's funny you keep looking at him, but I'm the one that asked the question.
I'm just looking in there. I'm looking mostly at the computer here. And then they had like one close win against UNC by like 3 points. And then that was pretty much it.
Yeah. I really thought the game was over with 8 minutes left. Duke had won the game. I really did.
Yeah.
I thought the game was over. I'm looking at my notes now.
I mean, you're looking at the whole game. You could say that's several points in the game.
Yeah, the Duke brass, their fan base, they are embarrassed right now.
Yeah.
They are. They are at the mountaintop. This team was a championship caliber team, and for them not to even get to the championship is really insane. They got out rebound. They got out hustled. They had too many turnovers. One field goal in the last 10 minutes of the game. And then Proctor missed 1-1, and then I don't think he did very well from the field. So that was a meltdown. But hey, you got to be happy for Houston. They did it. They haven't been to the championship since '84 when it was Hakeem, the Dream, the Fat. What would they call the Fat Five? What would they call? Five Mama Jamma? Something they would call something. I remember back in '84 because I was like 13.
So let me ask you this: you got Florida in your bracket. Are you more nervous that Houston is the matchup, or were you? I mean, like, how are you feeling right now?
I really don't ever get nervous. I just think Houston can take down anybody with that defense.
I mean,
their defense is
unbelievable.
Incredible. Yeah, it's so I'm hoping it's an up and down run and gun game, and that favors Florida, because if they don't start hitting shots, I mean, boy, it's gonna be tough. I mean, it's hard not to cheer for Houston in this game, but man, I'm gonna stick with who I picked. But man, Houston.
Well, it's been over 20 years since Florida's been in the championship as well. Against big Billy Donovan,
07,
right?
08? When was it last time they won?
Oh man, I think it was like
was it
04 or 05, I think.
Okay.
No, it was like 07 or 08.
Was it?
I think it was 08, 09.
Was it?
Gotcha. Okay. So getting close to
Donovan got in the Hall of Fame, by the way.
Right. So it's pretty nice to have a fresh matchup, I guess, of two teams.
Cool.
I mean, relatively fresh, but specifically Houston. This to me, from a just enjoyment of how the game of basketball is played, this is the dream matchup. Because I do think that you got depth and experience versus experience, and you got toughness on both sides of the field. You got named players that are trying to, cement their legacy here for these teams. Like, I'm all in on this matchup.
Yeah. So who you got?
I'm going Houston.
Yeah, it's hard.
I've been riding Florida for a while, but after that performance, that I just think that their relentless defense is just too much for teams to handle. And I don't think they haven't lost a game since November. So, I'm just riding with Houston because of that. What they did
you picked Duke just like I did. I thought did you pick Houston? You picked Houston, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Well, we all said our brain says Duke, our heart says Houston.
Well, he picked Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So who you got in the championship?
I'm gonna keep riding with Houston. They were the underdogs against Duke. They're the underdogs against Florida.
Who's favored in this one?
I have no idea. I'm not sure. I'm
not a gambler, but I would guess. I don't know. I have no idea. Florida?
I would say that Houston would have to be favored, right?
Yeah. Well, I know the over-under on points is like 140 something. That's because I was talking to a buddy of mine, but I didn't ask him who was.
Well, we'll bring that up when we come after the break. We're also going to talk about the Titans and Cam Ward and how it's pretty much pointing towards neon signs, all towards Cam Ward. We'll check in on that. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
Struggling with joint pain, suffering from a recent injury, looking to recover faster after surgery? Well, at Edge, we've got you covered. From powerful peptide stacks like BPC 157, TB 500 to PRP treatments, stem cell therapy, and high film muscle stimulation, Edge Peptide is your go-to solution for faster healing and recovery. And as an athlete myself, I know how frustrating pain and injuries can be. That's why now is the perfect time to take control of your wellness and finally address those nagging issues. Whether it's golf, tennis, or any activity you love, don't let pain hold you back any longer. Edge specializes in regenerative treatments designed to reduce inflammation, promote tissue repair, and improve mobility, helping your body heal naturally while avoiding surgery whenever possible. And right now, we're offering a free $250 consultation with your initial treatment. And all you have to do is just go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call today at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045 is the number. We just got done with our men's basketball conversation.
Yeah, my man Mike Thomas gave me a 5-slammer jammer was the Houston Cougars where they had Clyde Drexler and Akeem the Dream Olajuwon.
And we also got word that Florida is favored by 1.5 points.
Oh.
So there you go.
Wow.
That was from James Farrell in the F&M Bank chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook
Is the total
Live.
points around 140-something?
Not sure on that.
That means like 70 apiece?
Yeah.
Who's that favorite? Houston or Florida?
Florida would have to be
up there. Yeah.
Because, like, to me, Houston doesn't really have as much of the firepower.
Yeah.
But they're going to drag Florida down with them. I would take the under.
You take the under, right?
I would take the under.
You too, Jackson?
Yeah, Houston's going to get them in the mud.
All right.
Dang it.
I'll tell you what is not muddy is that Tennessee Titans clearly are drafting Cam Ward. I am even more convinced. I was 99.9. I might as well be 99.9999%. After Shadur Sanders and the Colorado Pro Day, they cancel their private workout. And so first off, I feel sorry for the people like Brinker who went last minute, for other people that may have had to change their plan.
Didn't they?
Yeah, why even go at that point? But they can. Again, they could be looking at. They spent a lot of time with Will Shepard, by the way, that came out of that pro day workout. Spent some extensive time with Will Shepard.
Tells you I like him. I remember at Vanderbilt.
Listen, LaJohntay Wester. For those that may not know, it was snowing and ice and stuff down there during this pro day. Thick snow. He went outside. LaJohntay Wester, the slot wide receiver for Colorado, went out there and caught punts out in the snow for everybody.
Oh, what?
Why?
Because they couldn't do it in the bubble?
Not he wanted to. He opted for it. He wanted to do it. I guess he wanted to showcase that it doesn't matter what kind of weather it is, he's catching that ball. So I just thought it was interesting. That's a little factoid. But Albert Breer today, right before we went on the air, apparently a lot of stuff wanted to break right when we were on the air, but he wrote his weekly Monday morning quarterback takeaways and all that kind of stuff for Sports Illustrated. And for those that may not remember, Albert Breer, when Mike Bergonzi got hired, and he was the one that was kind of on the train for Mike Bergonzi, but when Mike Bergonzi got hired, he immediately said, look for Dave Ziegler to be assistant GM. So he's kind of tied into someone in this Mike Bergonzi, Dave Ziegler establishment. But he said right at the top, take the Tennessee Titans' decision to cancel their Wednesday workout with Shadur Sanders for what it is. Plainly, my sense is it's a powerful sign of the conviction they've built in Cam Ward's worthiness as the first pick over these last 17 days. It also backs up what I've heard, that it would take a historic offer to move them to trade the pick and pass on the Miami quarterback. So there you go. I mean, again, something that we've all kind of talked about ad nauseum now is that for the last week and a half to 2 weeks, we've kind of just come to the conclusion. It's overwhelming majority is pointing towards Cam Ward. After hearing that, Blaine, where's your percentage of Cam Ward? Because I think you ended up being 90-10 last time we talked about it.
Yeah, 90%.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still at 90.
It hasn't moved you. This does not move you.
No. I mean, it could be also, you can look at it from two lenses, just to be on the other side of it. It could be, man, they sure are going to take Cam Ward. Ooh, maybe they're posturing so they can get more picks to move to 3 to get Shadur and act like they don't care about Shadur.
I like it. I'm here for a big conspiracy theory.
So I'm gonna get. Yeah, it's definitely looking that way. But I'm just gonna be on the other side of this just to make sure that we're all in, because you just never know what may happen on the other side, because it was so different. And then, like, here's what made me do that: they canceled the workout. Like, you went all the way down there, you might as well finish what you started. That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So if I went down, I'd be like, nah, we're going to go. If I'm the GM, we came down here for the party, we're going to go, we're going to check him out. His own personal workout. So, yeah, or our workout. So I would have done it. So then that became like, nah, see, I looked at it the total opposite. Like, was something up? Like they don't want to show their, Well, are they trying to play with us? See, that's what I thought.
I like it. I like a good conspiracy theory. What you got, Jackson?
Was.
I think this was almost planned earlier last week.
Yeah.
Because
why is that?
With the last minute additions of who was going. Brinker wasn't originally going to be there, so why did he decide last minute? Maybe he's like, okay, we'll go to the pro day, but we're not going to do the private workout anymore, so I have to be at the pro day.
So why didn't he announce it before when he decided to go that they were going to cancel the workout?
No idea, but it's just a thought that I had.
No, I know. No, I mean, both of you. I mean, you guys are right. But it's all signs are pointed to Cam Ward.
I will say this just real quick for clarification because I did bring this up earlier and I left it out of this when I was talking to someone else. Dixie in the F&M Bank chat says they also canceled the private workout with Travis Hunter because that's going to be the same day they were working out both of them. So both players were canceled on, not just Shooter, but both players.
Right. Well, it makes sense though. But I mean, if you cancel one, you got to because that means everybody was canceled.
Yeah.
I mean, so you can't. Yeah, they had to roll that way.
What do you think? Because Albert Breer talks about this, and I thought this was an interesting way to look at because we've kind of been up and down with how they've handled not announcing the number one overall pick or their conviction and all this kind of stuff over the course of the offseason. But he says, and I think we'll look back on this being pretty remarkable in that the Titans came into the process not wanting to predetermine anything with the first pick. They wanted to do the 30 visits, the combine interviews, have a big pro day presence for each of the four guys, and do private workouts with, at minimum, the quarterbacks. So, I mean, we've talked about it, patience over panic. They were really methodical, really patient. Does that help put you at any kind of ease in general when you see a team do this much due diligence when selecting a player?
No, I just think we're just getting into the weeds. I mean, I think this is how you're supposed to go about your process. So I don't feel any kind of way about it. I mean, to be honest. That's just how I feel. I mean, if I was in their shoes, I'd be going about it just like this. So what are they supposed to be doing? Jumping off the? I mean, I don't understand what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Well,
what do you think they should be doing?
Well, no, I think this is the right process. I'm not saying. I'm just saying, does that help you instill yourself with confidence that they have gone through this process? Because I don't think every team goes through a really thorough process like this sometimes.
Well, it's not for me to judge about their process. Here's what all that matters there, guys, is that nobody gives a crap about the freaking process unless you win.
Yeah.
So if you're winning, then nobody can care about the process. If you're losing, then people are going to go back and say, well, you should have done this about the process. So at the end of the day, I mean, this is all great and dandy, but hey, man, get some good players and make sure you develop them and win. I mean, at the end, that's it, really. I mean, you can go get all in the minutia of who was there, who wasn't there, but, they got to win, man. 3 games, they went backwards. Let's just talk about that. They went backwards. So whoever they get, they must move forward. And it has to go up. It must. If it doesn't, there's going to be a whole bunch of people having their furniture sitting outside and about to move. So we could talk about the process in and out and hypotheticals as I was doing. And shoot, man, you better win. It's put up or shut up now. After this draft and free agency, they can talk about building, but the team better look much improved and going in the right direction. That's just they can be slow. They can do the process however they want to be honest.
Well, here, this kind of the building, the process, building a winner, supporting a young quarterback, all that kind of stuff. Today we're going to start our positional preview of the NFL draft, and we're kind of taking this in a different direction. We'll talk about prospects. There'll be prospects that naturally brought up. But if you're looking for like overrated, underrated, this guy, that guy, we're trying to get, we'll get to that naturally, but we're trying to get into the meat of these positions. And I think it comes to first, since we're talking about Cam Ward, the natural transition is, and we've kind of touched on this before, but why do you think, in your opinion, from your point of view, from your experience, chemistry with college wide receivers is a little overrated, i.e. Cam Ward has played ball with Xavier Restrepo and he's thrown balls with Kyle Williams. Do you find that trait to be a little bit of an overinflated talking point in this draft cycle?
Well, who's been talking about that?
I mean, various people. I mean, like all kinds of people in media specifically.
Well,
I
thought you said that before.
We brought it up. I mean,
I don't. You know, it's great if it happens, but you can't force it.
Right.
If he's not the guy there that you like the best, that's out the window.
Yeah.
But if it happens, naturally. Yeah, that's great. Because guess what? You're going to build chemistry anyway. Once you start doing OTAs, you start throwing on your own.
Exactly.
All of that's going to come with that. If you're talking about winning, I mean,
and you're talking about a franchise quarterback.
Yeah. So I just think he brings that kind of leadership.
Yeah.
So I just you're not going to try to. I watch Restrepo and he's a really good player, but there's some things that I don't like, especially with his own pro day and workout. There were some players I think that are better that'll be available even in the 4th round or 3rd round or wherever he'll be. I wouldn't. He's going to have to slim down for me. He's a little too muscular because he was too slow at that. He can't run a 4.7, and he's not Molden.
Yeah.
Or what was his name? Bowden. Yeah, with the guy from Arizona.
Anquan Bolden.
And he's not him. So I didn't like that 4.7 at all.
So
and then I watched him at the Senior Bowl again, and there was not a lot of separation.
That was where I kind of had my moment of clarity with Restrepo. Is like you watch Tez Johnson, right? So we're talking about these are slot only guys: Xavier Restrepo and Tez Johnson. Mm-hmm. And when you're talking about those kinds of guys, and then you're going up to this level of competition in the Senior Bowl, not to say that Xavier Restrepo didn't see competition wherever he was at in Miami, but when you get up to here, you're kind of taking a slight step up at the Senior Bowl, just a slight. And Tez Johnson is getting open like crazy. He's getting open with the speed, his moves, and all this kind of stuff. And you look at Restrepo, and it's taken him so many steps to try and even get barely open to where the quarterback can squeeze a ball into him. And listen, there are times that he got open pretty well by using his technique. But I look at right there is that I kind of was like, man, I know what I saw on tape, but man, this athleticism scares me because what I saw on tape does scare me at the next level.
Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of hard to tell he's 5'10", 210, so when I say slim down, I think he's been, he went into the weight room and a lot of guys think, okay, I'm about to be in the league. I got to get bigger and stronger. More about flexibility when you're a skill guy, more about flexibility and change of direction when you're a DB wide receiver than any of that. So if he was in the 4 or 5 range, I'd be all in. But that 4.7 was tough watching it, and and then he tried to say something was wrong with his hamstring or something. I don't know. There was actually a guy that nothing. Their styles are different, but I'd take more of a risk on the kid from Iowa State, Jalen Noe, in the slot. Mm-hmm. He's more a vertical slot guy. He's not a east-west guy, kind of like Restrepo. So I kind of like what I saw actually out of both of those receivers from Iowa State. Actually, just on a note, whenever we get to this, the other wide receiver in my eyes, which is, what was his name? Jaden Higgins.
Yeah, Jaden Higgins.
He was a transfer from EKU his first 2 years. Then he went to Iowa State. He was a 2-star. He looked better than the guy that say this is the number 1 guy, McMillan. It wasn't.
You ain't gonna hear any complaints out of me.
Watch this, and it wasn't even close. It wasn't close. They're both 6'4", one's 215. Only thing McMillan was really good at is high point. He's 6'4", 6'5". I mean, come on, all right. 5 guys my height. So
I mean, listen, there's not a lot of 6'4", 6'5" corners out there,
right? So he's supposed to win. I mean, but everything else, that other kid from Iowa State,
Jalen Noel.
Yeah, he was better to me. He was in and out of his breaks. He could play in the slot. He could play outside the guy's big. He could run routes. He can drop his hips and move and get out of his breaks. He was better. I mean, now that's not to say that we got to remember.
Yeah.
I wasn't Blaine Bishop until 3 years into the league. Right. And so these guys are too. So these are all projections. Mm-hmm. But as far as what I saw on film, which they both were going to be good players, as of today, the other kid is better. Jaden, he's better.
Well,
Higgins, Jaden Higgins.
Look at this corner class right now. The
was like,
tallest
ooh.
corner is 6'3", and he's really 6'2" and 7/8 inches. But like that's the tallest corner in this class, and there's only two of them in this class. That's Darian Porter and Ja Frazier. To go back to your T-Mac Jaden Higgins comparison, McMillan and Higgins, is that they have. I mean, McMillan has the obvious size advantage, and it's something that we've actually both been preaching this pretty much most of the offseason, is that he's a big guy that doesn't play big. And his biggest games are from like New Mexico State to start the year.
Watch this. When they challenged Jaden Higgins at the line on press coverage, he gave them the business with physicality, with quick feet move. You do that to McMillan, he kind of stutters and putters and not as physical. He's not physical at the line. And then he's not quick-footed. So these are things that were telltales to me that, somebody's going to take him on name, and he had great production, but he's not better as of today than a couple of the guys. Your guy Luther Burden looked better than him. Another surprise guy that I love, though, at receiver, and I know some guys are going to get confused with him of where to put him. That kid, and I was like, oh, my. I'm sure Coach Mack is listening. Xavier Williams, the most versatile player on offense in this draft. He was playing quarterback to running back to wide receiver, and the guy is like 6'2", 6'3", like 222 or something like that. He was insane. He has quick feet. Only thing you could really say,
almost 6'4", right. 222 pounds.
Watch this. Yeah, he looked like Derrick Henry, but a wide receiver, a thinner frame, but he's still big. And the only thing you couldn't really see is how good he is in the route tree, because he ran so many different things from different spots.
And that offense was kind of a mess.
Yeah. So I love his upside. Now he needs to be on a team that's going to develop him.
Yeah.
As far as a receiver, but boy, he was strong at the point of attack. He could get off the jam. He was a bull. And also he had flexibility and movement skills. He could play in the slot. He could go outside. I was thoroughly impressed with him. I thought, wow, man, if somebody, a real good team is going to take a shot on him. Now, the other guy on Beck.
Yeah, Besh.
I want to move him to tight end.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk more about those guys when we come back, because I also want to talk about the alphabet when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know EuroFix has been in Middle Tennessee area for European car repair needs now for 26 years. We've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching the hometown business take off. Well, we're now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for EuroFix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And EuroFix can serve you in Franklin, Hunted Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. So pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn of his backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at EuroFix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EuroFix. That's right, 844-EuroFix, or you can visit them online at myEuroFix.com. That's myEuroFix.com. But always tell them Blaine sent you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. We're talking shop about the wide receivers, and I hope you guys are enjoying the discussion so far because we just had a whole buttload of discussion about it during the break, and we're going to be bringing it in as well. But I wanted to just kind of like talk about this idea.
Oh, I said back to tight.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, let's start there. So first off, I have a real issue with how people have been spelling their names and how it's pronounced because it's technically Besh.
It's Besh?
And I think that's so ridiculous. And I get that there's an H in there, but it really screams like it should say Beck. Because I called him Jack Beck all throughout the Senior Bowl. And then we get in there for the game and everybody tells me, no, it's Besh at the presser. at the press room.
Okay.
So you would put him, he's 6'1", 214 pounds, and you'd put him at tight end.
Here's what I say. I saw him out there with the other guy, Xavier Williams, who's a fascinating, really good player, man. Somebody's going to get a good player. I don't know where he's going to play, but here's what I think. What was the guy, the tight end that was with the Jaguars that played at Ole Miss? Ingram.
Yeah, Evan Ingram.
That's who he reminds me of. And I think he could be a matchup nightmare for linebackers and safeties. I just don't see the vertical speed that I need to speed. But he is a very productive player. And when I say things like this, and I said this about the corner last year that was at Iowa. If they
went to the Eagles.
Eagles, right. I said if they put him at slot and safety, he'll be a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
If they put him at corner, he'll be just a good player. And that's kind of how I feel about Besh, right?
Yeah.
I think at receiver, he'll be just some chain mover type possession guy on the outside. I think at tight end, he could be dominant. I think he could be special.
Yeah.
But, some people are not going to see that vision. They're going to see him just at what he is being doing. And that's always tough, and you're taking a risk. But I think that's, and I know he's only 6'1", but I like him. And Ingram was only about 6'1", too. And you always kept saying when they used him, is he a wide receiver or is he a tight end in college, right? This guy could be dominant. He'd be a possession guy. I want him to be more than that because I love how he makes people miss in the open field. I love his route running. I just don't think he has the vertical speed to be elite in the NFL. I just think he'll be okay if he was a receiver. And I want him to be better than okay because of his skill set is after his yak.
Right.
His yak is good. Now, he's just getting called from behind, but he's making people miss. He's veering. He's got a good feel for the game, good football player.
So, speaking of positions, a lot of people look at the Tennessee Titans and say, well, they need an X or they need a slot guy. That's your X and your Y. For those that X is your outside wide receiver that plays on the line of scrimmage. Z is kind of what Calvin Ridley's really good at, plays a little bit off the line of scrimmage, but he's out wide, and your Y is in your slot. Do you when you're looking at this wide receiver class, do you factor that in at all, the alphabet, the X, Y, Z positions that they play, or are you just looking for damn good wide receivers?
Well, if you're referring to the Titans, I think they're looking for outside and inside.
Yeah, well, that's true.
But when I'm looking at them, their play style will tell me if they're an outside guy or they're a slide, and some will be versatile. And here's why I say what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Being a former defensive guy in the league, I hated when I played guys that were both. And so because that became problems is I couldn't, hone in on what they like to run in certain situations with certain guys. So if you're versatile, you can play outside and inside, you become problems. Now, you have your initial who's X, Y, and Z, but you want them to be able to move all over the place.
Right.
That's what you want eventually on every team. So I don't pay attention. I look for outside and more who's better in the league as slot. So outside is outside, so that's the one, and usually it's those are taller, the longer guys who are not as shifty.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the Higgins guy. He's a tall guy, 6'4", 215, who's also shifty and can come across the middle. Most of those tall guys don't want to come across the middle because they're big targets. And the shorter guys are more jitterbuggy and can get down, and they former running back type guys. So you want the versatility. It also depends on your offensive scheme too. See, you talked about Ridley's an outside guy, whether he's an X or a Z, but guess what? They ran him on reverses and he was in the slot, or he was tight split. So that's somewhat the same thing. And so I wonder what the Titans actually view Ridley as. Is he more an outside guy or is he a slot guy? And that will be determined based off of who they pick up in the draft. So it does matter with offense, and I don't look at it more XZ, but I look for outside, inside.
So when you look at a guy like Jaden Higgins, who you just brought up, and you were talking at the break, you were talking about you know who he reminds me of?
Of Iowa State, yeah. I said
So
Mike,
tell him.
I said Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, Tampa Bay wide receiver.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about Mike Evans is that Mike Evans has spent 27.1% of his time in the slot, 72.9 out wide.
I like that.
Jaden Higgins, since being at Iowa State,
What was it?
he has been in there at almost right at 29% in the slot and been over the rest of the time out wide. So when you talk about Mike Evans and that inside-outside versatility, that all makes sense, right?
That I didn't know those numbers. That's a great job by you on a drop of a hat. But I love that because I understand how difficult that is on the other side of the ball in covering these guys and honing on what routes they run. And so based off of formation recognition. And so, this guy, and I don't take Mike Evans lightly because I know he's a Hall of Fame player.
Mike Evans. He's one of my favorite players.
I remember he was in high school. He was more of a basketball player to his senior year, and then he played football, and then he went to A&M, and then he's done what he's done in the NFL. But he's the only guy, or one of the few guys, that have had 1,000 yards since he's been in the NFL every year. So this guy's down. And so for me even to say his name with this kid tells you, and that's why I say I would take him over McMillan. And everybody's saying McMillan's the number one dude. Now other people saying Golden. Watch this. The number one wide receiver in this draft is Travis Hunter. Let me get that out there. That's the number one wide receiver in this draft, in my opinion.
I'm with you. You ain't going to hear any argument out of me.
After that, I know you can pick and choose.
Jackson thinks it's Dante Thornton, but mine is Travis Hunter.
People are talking. People are talking.
He
That's
did
all I got to
4.3
say.
at the combine, though, right?
Dante Thornton?
Yeah, what did he run?
4.5.
Oh, I thought he ran a
Dante Thornton?
Oh, no, 4.3. That's my fault.
4.3. That's what it is.
You're thinking of your tweet, and I'm giving you perfect timing to bring in the tweet that you wanted to talk about.
Yes. So there's only been two players in the draft era that have been 6'5" and ran a 4.3.
Oh.
Dante Thornton and one other Hall of Fame wide receiver. You just said he ran
4.5.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy? 6. Oh, who's 6? Mike Evans. No, he's 6'4".
Calvin Johnson.
Oh, Megatron.
So does Dante Thornton equal Calvin Johnson? I'm not saying it, but there are people talking. That's all I got to say.
People are saying.
No, he's not that. But I think he's going to be a better pro than he was in college, as long as he stays healthy. That would be a concern of mine. Being that big, you should be like, hey man, I'm playing with boys here. I mean, nobody should be stopping me. And he had some serious injuries too. It was a knee, ankle, like sprained knee, sprained ankle.
Ankle against Missouri his junior year, and then I want to say last year he was just nicked up a little bit and was taken out of games early.
Yeah. But I like his skill set, though. I think some people once they saw that 4.3, I think that's going to open up some eyeballs, and he's going to, get more people looking at his film and tape. Sometimes, how they utilize him in certain offenses, you go Ole Miss or Tennessee's offense. It's kind of like they only use guys certain ways, and so they can't see everything that they want to see. And that's why the combine and seeing them how they run routes in the route tree. The route tree is every route that you can run and see what they really can run, because when you're an outside guy in some of these offenses, you kind of only run like 2 or 3 routes.
Yeah, well, that's something that we'll talk about when we come back, is how the scheme of these college offenses are kind of skewing what you're able to derive from the tape.
It's tough.
But I do have one question. If it were to surprise you to hear that Jaden Higgins may sneak into the first round, would you be surprised to hear that?
No, I'll be stunned if that didn't happen.
There you go. Hey, listen.
I know people are not until I watched the film of him and I went haywire. It's like, oh my, somebody's not talking about him for a reason.
Yeah.
This is a no-brainer in my mind.
I am with you. Both the Iowa State guys have been, I thought, were really fun to watch. Mm-hmm. They had really good tape, and I went into this season with my eye on them because of what they were able to do last year. And I look at these two guys, and Jalen Noel, he at the Senior Bowl, he was the sideline toe tap king. Almost every highlight he had was like a toe tap sideline.
He's a blazer.
He was just killing them.
Here's the question, though, for you when we come back to answer. Would you take him at 35 if he's available?
Well, this is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
It is 2:01. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. In Titans news, the team announced today that Taylor Zarzer will be the next play-by-play announcer for Titans Radio. Hear from the newest member of Titans Radio at 4 o'clock on 3HL. The men's basketball national championship is set for this evening as Houston and Florida will play for it all tonight in San Antonio. You can hear that game on the Zone following 3HL. The offseason has begun for the Vols men's basketball team as they had two commitments from the portal this weekend as former Belmont and Maryland guard Jacoby Gillespie and former Vanderbilt forward Jalen Carey both committed to Tennessee. Tennessee baseball has dropped down to number 5 in the D1 baseball rankings after losing their series to Texas A&M 2-1. The Vols will look to get back on track with a midweek game against Alabama State tomorrow before heading to Oxford to take on Ole Miss for this weekend's SEC series. For our foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once. On your home for the Titans and Vols, this is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Stores, 615-737-1045. And Blaine asked before the break if at 35 I would be comfortable with the Tennessee Titans taking Jalen Noel out of Iowa State. And
Or James Pierce, as you brought up.
Well, I was about to say that would be
trade back.
I mean, there's a select group of edge players.
Yeah.
That I would have a hard time passing on if they fell. James Pierce, Mike Green, Donovan Ezaraku over Jalen Noel. But if all those guys are gone, and I think there will be an edge. I think there will be an edge run, so those guys will likely be gone by then.
The elite guys.
So yeah, I mean, I think I would prefer Jaden Higgins just from a stylistic, the other Iowa State wide receiver. But I would not be upset with Jalen Noel. Now listen. If Luther Burden is there, who I think is the clear number 2 wide receiver in this draft class under Travis Hunter and from Missouri, then I'm going Luther Burden over Jalen Noel. But like to me, I'm just at this point where I'm just like, man, the Titans really need a 3rd round pick because there's an opportunity to get a really good player at 35, but the difference between what you can get 35 and 43 in a trade back, if you were to move back to 43, is very narrow. It's very, very slim because I think there is a wide berth. I mean, there's like a bunch of players that I'd be comfortable with at 35 that will likely be available at 43 in a trade back or 45 or even 50 in a trade back.
That's a tough decision.
And it's
think
so
about this.
tough.
A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Well, they would hire 2nd round pick.
Yeah.
So you're losing out on guys who dropped out of the first. I think A.J. Brown was a higher pick.
Yeah, he was picked 42, I believe.
I don't know what he was, but those two were great players and still are. And you go, man, guys who fall out of the first but really were first-round
Brown
picks.
was 51.
Oh, my gosh.
And then Derrick Henry
Was 35?
was 45.
45. So
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, and I think both of these, and I think both of these, I think this wide receiver class is deeper than AJ Brown's because remember, N'Keal Harry was the only guy that went 1st round overall, or if not overall, but in the 1st round at the wide receiver position. DK Metcalf and AJ Brown went after him, and then this wide receiver class, this is the same wide receiver class. They got Tajay Sharp in the 5th round. And so
that was good value. I like
it. So, Jax, what you got?
I got a question. So let's say there is a run on either receiver or edge, and you're sitting at the very end of it. Like you're going to get the last guy who's maybe an in-betweener on tiers. Maybe you have him right there in between tier 1 and 2. Are you looking to trade back and have somebody else come up and get that last tier 1 or tier 2 guy? Or do you stick and pick right there?
I know. That's why I said I'd be really conflicted. I mean, every other second, I'd be like, no, let's do it this way.
This is what's so hard about the draft talk to me is that I have to know the players, it feels like. Because if, let's say it's tier 1 at the end of it is Donovan Ezaraku. but of the edge class. And tier 1 of the wide receivers is Matthew Golden. I think I'd be okay passing on both of those in a trade bag. You get what I'm saying?
But you don't know how these other teams are going to pick. But if you're sitting there at the end, you're probably going to get a better offer.
Right. And so I kind of look at it, and again, I view, a difference between Donovan Ezeraku and JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State, the edge rusher out of there. Mm-hmm. I would be fine in a trade back and taking that guy. Same with, let's say it's Jalen Noel is there, or let's say it's Luther Burden there, which pushes Jalen Noel down. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe Luther Burden's not the right choice. So let's say
he ain't gonna drop that.
Yeah,
unless somebody finds out. Oh, he got bad attitude.
Jalen Noel and Kyle Williams. I would be okay with the trade back and going Kyle Williams. So, to me, it's all about the players that are there. I'm not passing on Luther Burden. I'm not passing on James Pierce, and I'm not passing on Emeka Egbuka, who are all guys that are rumored to quote-unquote fall to the second round, which I don't think that any of the three actually do. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at on that conversation. I mean, Blaine, let's talk about Luther Burden, because I think that would be a dream scenario for the Tennessee Titans in this. It's improbable, but if for whatever reason Luther Burden falls to the pick 35 overall, you have Cam Ward, and you get to walk away with Luther Burden or Emeka Egbuka, but specifically Luther Burden. Are you taking both those guys over James Pierce?
No. Man.
That's tough, right? And that could be a realistic scenario. Sort of realistic.
That's a tough call. That's what I said. I would be conflicted.
That's tough.
Because a pass rusher, we may not be in a situation next year where we could get one on an elite level, at least as far as
wide receivers always feels like there's a first or second round
every year. And by the way, there's going to be probably, a handful of guys getting cut June 1st that are still quality NFL players.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. So, man, I'd probably go edge. And I like both of those guys. I really do. I like Egbuka, how he runs his routes. He's already a pro. You got to see him play opposite of an elite player who was only a freshman.
Several elite players over the course of his career, to be honest.
Of course. So he stylistically is already a pro, and he sets guys up. He understands tempo, when to slow up, slow down. He can drop his hips. He was perfect. I think Burden's a better talent. He's 6 feet, 200, and, Egbuka's like 6'1", 200 or so, where around there. But he can play inside and outside. I like what I saw from him. He could do everything. To me, he's an elite player as far as athletically in this draft at receiver. There's no way he's top 4 receiver in this draft, maybe top 3. Just that on that level of athleticism and speed. And he's quick, and he's explosive, and he has deep speed. So there was nothing about his game. The only thing I worry about when I watch him, and this is just on film, and this is how I'm sure scouts and coaches are going to watch, especially coaches, is when he didn't get the ball for whatever reason this senior year. He got the ball way more junior year. I'm not going to say pout, his body language and then there were some plays where he didn't even run hard. Like he knew he wasn't getting the ball.
Right.
So I didn't like some parts of that. Now, sometimes that's a part of coaching. Sometimes it's the actual player. I don't know. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about him personally. But other than that, his talent.
So if you had him in front of you in your team, and you had Luther Burden in front of you, what would Blaine Bishop, the scout, or Blaine Bishop, the team executive, ask Luther Burden to get to the bottom of that?
I probably first would start off, when you come here, you're going to have to earn your way. And so you're not going to be the featured guy. So explain to me on this play right here where you didn't run very hard. Explain to me what the play was called, who was the number 1, who was the 2, who was the 3 read for the quarterback, and let him explain it. Yeah. And
what's a satisfactory answer in that? I'm just curious.
I'm not sure, what I want him. Here's what I want.
Yeah.
I want him to own up, I loafed on that play because I knew I wasn't going to get the ball. I want him to say it. Well, you're not going to be able to do that in the NFL because number 1 and 2, 3, everybody's live. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they were teaching you there. Did the coaches let you do that? Did they ever comment on you on that? How was you responding? See, that's what I want to hear and say that was my bad. Well, it was your bad the whole season? You kept doing it. See, I want to test him because then it'll tell me who he really is. Now, or were they really just trying to throw the ball to the other guy? Because there was a big difference from junior to senior year.
Right.
And for whatever reason, they wasn't throwing him the ball.
All across the board, because even at I believe Theo Wees was the wide receiver. I got a lot of names in mind.
He's a draftable guy, too.
And
But not high.
they were both guys that were considered one of the best wide receivers duos heading into this year, and this offense just completely fell. I don't understand what was going on.
I think they had a new coordinator. Quarterback didn't play as well, but I'd love to know those things and what all went into that. But at the same time, I need you to be a pro. We can't have that.
Yeah.
And if he convinces me and makes me feel good about, hey, I made some mistakes there and I should have done better. I want him to own up, because one thing is to be blind. It's another thing to take ownership in what you did. And that's different. And now what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Yeah. Well, if we take you, we don't want to see that. And I'm going to tell you that right now. Yeah. If not, you're going to be standing right next to me. And how that going to do for your pocket?
Yeah.
You ain't going to get paid, and you're going to be pouting in for sure. So I want to see what he does and what he says.
There you go. Coach T, real quick, wants to talk about the Natty. Coach T, you're on Blaine and Zach.
Man, good afternoon, fellas. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Coach, you didn't get them all right this time, did you?
Blaine already know we got to do the lunch on the line already, so we already got that. Hey, listen, man, I'm talking about, this has got to be, in my personal opinion, probably one of the best Final Fours that I've seen in a long time. And the reason why I'm an old school guy, I love when you talk about upperclassmen, right? That's the ones who are running the tournament. Bruce Pearl did what he had to do. Now, have you, boom, almost ended his entire career. You guys probably can agree with me. My nephew is an ortho surgeon, and he said the way the kid came down, he could have broke his ankle, he could have broke his hip, knee, and elbow all in the same fall. And lucky God saved him, and he didn't do that. But I don't think he, and Blaine, you know this better than anybody, having injuries, having to go ice him down and to get, back in for the next week. A week was not long enough to get that elbow, and I can tell Bloom was not able to lift that right arm normally, and I think that kind of caused Auburn some hiccups. What do you think about that?
Well, when I saw him hitting shots early in the game, I didn't want to use excuse, because I was definitely watching him going into the game and see how much it would affect him. Maybe coming out of halftime, and then he had to go back through that whole process of warming up. Maybe didn't do just as good a job, but the first half he looked like Broom.
Yeah, but they gained wear on you. It's like 4 quarters in the NFL. I'm gonna hit you enough 4 quarters. I'm gonna see if you can finish that game.
Yeah, to go take a Toradol shot.
Right, exactly. So see if we could do it. So I think that Florida just simply walked them down. No different than no different than Houston walked Duke down. Now Flag had an opportunity to win the game at the baseline, turnaround baseline in the middle. Roberts defended it great. He just shot the ball short. So when I look at it, I know one thing. Defense wins championship, but better offense wins that. So you're going to see an offensive performance tonight on Florida side of the house. But if Kevin Sampson can get what he calls the culture, he's the last of the mafia that's left in the tournament. And if he can get these boys to punch Florida in the mouth, it's a done game. Now I'm going to tell you, Houston's going to have to hold Florida under 70. They hold Florida under 70. Houston, national champs tonight.
What's your final pick?
I'm going to go Houston, final score 72-66 in lunch on Blaine.
There you go.
I'm going Florida. All right.
All right. Thanks, Coach T. When we come back, we'll talk about what does and doesn't matter with this wide receiver draft class. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
We've got the trucks, all the trims, all the towing, all the bells and whistles, and all at Truck Month Savings. Two Rivers Ford is Ford Truck Central.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. We're kicking off our in-depth draft analysis series with the wide receiver position. We've been talking about wide receivers. And I wanted to kind of get in this conversation about basically going through the film, looking at the numbers, and trying to figure out what matters and what doesn't matter. And I'm going to start off not necessarily with what matters, what doesn't matter, but how do you look at these schemes nowadays? Because you talked about it off air about the Texas wide receivers, how they only run go routes, it feels like. It's a deep curl or a deep cross or it's just a deep route. And it reminded me, because me and Stoney were talking about this last night when we were going through exchanging some draft notes and some analysis too. And we were talking about this same thing and how it kind of reminds me of the Tennessee offense in a way. It's like, and the Ole Miss offense, it's like it's really hard to really figure out what a wide receiver actually excels at, because you talked about Trey Harris, Ole Miss wide receiver who transferred from Louisiana Tech, and a big knock on Trey Harris's Ole Miss film is that he doesn't run routes. But you said You went back to the Louisiana Tech tape, and what did it tell you?
It told me he could do all of the route tree. And it was just like, wow, man, I would have docked him,
Yeah.
But it wasn't
And that's
his
what
fault.
docked A.J. Brown, to be honest with you.
Right. And because you just say, well, then he's only running, 2 routes, really. Go, a slant, and a hitch, well, 3. And it was just like, well, dang, I can't even see if he can run a dig, can't even run a pose. I mean, it was just him. Now, his run after catch and his change of direction was pretty good. So you go, okay, I could see how, and then you wanted to see more. And I kept wanting to see more. So that's how I dug in and saw that I didn't even know he was a transfer, by the way.
Yeah.
And that he went to Louisiana Tech. And that he was that once I dug, then he was a former quarterback in high school. So I said, man, this guy's only been playing wide receiver for 5 years. And I go, now I think I've got something here with, he can run every portion of the route tree. And his run after catch was already proven. Based and some of the change of direction. Now he's not a jitterbugger, but he can make people miss on the outside. It was pretty clear, and he's running right down the middle of the field. So he had some. He's one of those guys. He picks up as he goes. He's a long runner. When I call long runner is they're not super explosive immediately. Like 2-3 steps there at top speed. Well, when he gets a going, boy, he picks up speed.
Yeah.
And some guys play faster than their 40 time. I don't know what his 40 time was, but he looked pretty fast. So. I really grew to like him after initially saying, ooh, I don't know. So I would say he's
a 4.54 40, by the way, with a 1.57 10-yard split.
Yeah. And how big? He's like 6'2", 205. And so, he's a
6'2", 205. You're right on it.
I love his build. He looked the part, and then eventually, as I watched him more at Louisiana Tech, I said, well, shoot, he can do everything. There wasn't nothing he couldn't do. And he would probably mostly an outside. There's a part of me, if he continues to grow, because he was, let's just say, so young in the position, that he could possibly play the slot in certain schemes.
Yeah.
Not one that you're trying to get the 5-yard out jitterbuggy guy.
Right.
The vertical threat offenses type, kind of like our offense.
There you go.
I think he could really play slot there if need to be. So, I think he brings some value here. I think he's probably a second-round guy. He's at the top tier of at least this draft class.
Yeah, I agree. When you look at this Texas offense, right, and there's a couple of we talked about TCU's offense. We've also we haven't really talked about Stanford's offense, but all three of these teams have different levels of quarterback play issues. Okay, they're different levels. Because Quinn Ewers is obviously better than the other two, but he didn't really help these wide receivers with his play. How do you go about when you're watching wide receiver film, factoring in? Okay, well, is that a bad throw, an on target throw, a late throw? Like, how do you go about factoring that into your evaluation?
Well, I mean, you do. Well, it is funny because, I try to listen to the guys when they get interviewed at the combine and how they answer those questions if they didn't have a quarterback that's a, NFL caliber quarterback. And there's a whole bunch of those.
Yeah.
So you don't want to throw your quarterback under the bus, So, you're trying to get perspective and say, I missed some opportunities or, it was my fault or, But when you watch the tape, I mean, you just got to, zoom out of the quarterback's play if it's bad. Like Arizona, the McMillan guy, that quarterback's not an NFL quarterback. I mean, he made some bad throws, underthrows and all that, and he still made some of those catches. So you just want to look and see how well he runs routes, is yak in the route tree, and does he body catch or does he hand catch? And does he look comfortable hand catching away from his body? Does he high point the ball? Does he run NFL routes, where they're, we were talking about running the 12-yard comeback or the 15-yard comeback or, a dig route, a deep dig or you run an NFL. Is it on time? How does he round his breaks? Does he, do it with an L? Some are smoother, some are choppier. So those are the kind of things I was watching for. And I'm real big on this. It's just more me. I don't like wasted motion, and I don't like lazy players. And when I say that, that constitutes a lot of things. He's on the backside, he's jogging. Well, I want to see you set the tone and go block the guy. Go block him. This is something you don't have to do. And a matter of fact, you don't have to. I ain't say take him to the ground.
Right.
I'm talking about get in his way. Like, guess what?
Get in his chest a little.
Yeah, I want to see some physicality because that can wear on him and think, oh, man, I'm going to be in for a battle. That can play into his head, his thought process. And by the way, if that guy breaks loose on the other side, hey, I know angles like no other, and I played to those angles.
Right.
I know that backside corner is running an L to get to the next guy. Well, guess what? I want you to block this guy because I want you to make sure that he's not the guy that saves them for a touchdown. So there's a lot of things. It tells me a little bit about you. Are you a team player? Mm-hmm. When the ball's not coming to you, I'm just chilling. No, man. Let's go work. Let's put it to work. You supposed to love football. That's something that tells me if you love it or not.
So Isaiah Bond is, I think, a good example for this right here that you're talking about. These Texas wide receivers, I'm not sure where I'm landing on these guys quite yet. I know that Matthew Golden, the other Texas wide receiver, is really highly thought of.
Yeah, they're saying he's like number one wide receiver.
Yeah, and I don't get it. And then I look at Isaiah Bond, I'm like, well, he's got all the talent in the world, but like you said, he doesn't give a damn about blocking. He's not blocking nobody.
Yeah,
and then he's got the little bit of those quote unquote off field concerns or attitude problems but his problems all stem from being a diva, and he transferred from Alabama, coming to a Texas offense where he thought he was going to see more targets, and he only saw 11% target share. He got injured a little bit, but he wasn't trending in the right direction. And I look at it, Blaine, and I go, from everything I've read, some NFL scouts say about him, if only Texas gave him the ball more. They said that if they gave him the ball more, he would be talked about as one of the top wide receivers in his draft class. And I go back to what you just said. Well, why wasn't he getting the ball more? Is it because he wasn't willing to block? Is he because he was loafing? Or is it because he was injured? I mean, like, what? And then if he's not getting the ball, that's what you get. So Isaiah Bond, formal combine meeting. Isaiah Bond, 30 visit. They have shown interest in Isaiah Bond. And we know that Mike Bergonzi has oftentimes taken off-field non-football concerns, and Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice.
Kansas City did, and not
we can, but I mean, in my meeting with me, he said that at some point talent outweighs all that stuff. And in that conversation I had with him at the Senior Bowl, I don't know what point that is. I wish I would have followed up and asked what is the breaking point. But Isaiah Bond, everything we're talking about, what matters and what doesn't matter when you have all the talent in the world. And what did you see on tape with Isaiah Bond?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say Andy Reid has last say so in Kansas City, and he does have a little lax on there. He'll take them in the later part of a draft, or later than they're projected to be, and definitely will do that. And his personality brings the best out of those kind of players. So for whatever reason, he has the mojo and the magic. Isaiah Bond, man, I have to say this. I like this guy a lot. Now, all the things you said about him are all true. I mean, and the one thing that really is concerning is that he's always getting nicked up. Like, it wasn't something major. It'd be like, he got an ankle sprain, missed a couple games. It's just always was something, and then you just didn't see him going hard, being a team player. Like, I'm going to give you an example. Ibuka, who's out there with two other elite receivers who are going to be NFL guys. You see him running hard, doing all the dirty work and all that, and being a pro's pro. I don't see that out of Bond. See, and that bothers me. But at the same time, his talent is off the right. Now, this dude is fast. I don't. In that offense, it's hard to see him doing the total route tree. It's really weird because they just look like they're just faster than just everybody on the field. Even the Golden kid.
They look more like track stars than football players.
Yes, exactly. And I remember watching Bond live at the Vandy game because I went to that game when he was with Texas, and he just lit them up, him and Golden. So I just seeing them live, they are super talented. I'm just interested to see what their roles will be like, and who would I comp them to? I couldn't figure out, like, he reminds me of this guy. Because both of them are this 5, 11, 10, 180 guys, 190, And I'm like, well, okay, they're not jitterbuggy slot guys. Run after the catch. They're really burners who just run by people on the outside. So it's one that's, if they're in the offense in the slot, you want them to have them off ball and you got to have more of a vertical running offense, which the league is actually going to.
A lot of people have used the comp of Jalen Waddle for Isaiah Bond, but Todd McShay, and I want to throw this out there to you, said it's a mixture of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle for these guys. What do you think? I mean, I don't know if I'm really there yet, but I'm with you. They're hard guys to place because of the scheme. And I go back to the Alabama tape, and I'm like, I wish he would have stayed at Alabama. Yeah. Like, I feel like we could have seen a little bit more from Isaiah Bond if he stayed at Alabama.
That'd be my first question. So what was your experience like at Alabama?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I would say, oh, okay, and then he explained it. And I was like, okay, so why did you leave?
Oh, I think he left because he was seeking targets. Or maybe he left because he didn't like Jalen Milroe. I don't know.
For what it's worth, I saw him live against UTC, and I was like, oh, my, this guy is different. And his speed was on a whole nother level, and his explosiveness. So, I think he's a guy who's been told he's great his entire time, and he's really good, but it then plays into his attitude. So he's going to get in for a rude awakening when he gets into the league. I wouldn't hold that against him. His talent does outweigh
that. And Todd McShay described Golden that way. But I do remember, I think it was Lance Zierlein that said Jalen Waddle for Isaiah Bond.
Wow. Okay. They're both talented, super talented. But I don't envision or see them at this point in time a comp for either one of those guys. And some is body build, some is how they run routes. It's just they're kind of in this old. And I think a lot of guys are going to start being that way.
I just don't like Golden as much as everybody else. Let me ask you this.
Yeah, I don't think he's the number 2 behind Travis Hunter.
If you're the Tennessee Titans, Isaiah Bond, where are you comfortable if you were in that room taking Isaiah Bond in this draft? Because obviously you don't have a third. Mm-hmm. So do you think he's too talented to fall to the 4th or the 5th, or do you think that maybe?
Oh no, he's not going to be there.
Not going to be there.
No,
okay.
I don't think he'll be there. I mean, no. If he's there, if he's there in 4th round, they better snatch this dude up so fast. Okay. And he's going to be so hot that he went in the 4th round that we may get a dominant. This guy's going to be phenomenal.
There you go. So I want to talk about maybe some stats that people like to throw out there that people think that matters. And really, I'm one of these people. I used to think contested catch rate mattered. So that means, the rate, the physicalness and everything. But what it turned out I learned over the course of this year is that actually contested targets matter. So when you get into the NFL, so from 2017 on to 2024, you are pretty much seeing a pretty steady contested catch rate. Doesn't matter what it was in college. You're almost like a straight line. If you were really good at contested catches, you're probably going to even out. If you're really bad, you're going to even out. It kind of meets in the middle. Mm-hmm. For contested targets, it actually has a strong correlation. So the better your contested target rate is in college, the better it will be in the NFL. And if it's worse, it'll be worse. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was interesting because contested situations that result in the targets are tied to things like alignment, target depth, and et cetera, which helps drive the carryover. And this brings me to a guy from Stanford, the wide receiver that is a pretty hot name right now among the Titans draft community, and that's Elik Eumenor, if I can pronounce that right, which I'm so glad the Beast is coming out this week. It will help me realize all these pronunciations. But I thought this whole thing was spot on because he had one of the highest contested target rates because he's a pure X wide receiver. But it drives home to this point, Blaine, where there was a podcast that talked about he has the 6th most yards from the wide alignment of any wide receiver in the past 2 years. So he's the 6th most yards gained at the wide alignment. That's because he's very static. And I think that's what people need to understand is that when you hear something like that, figure out the why. Because the why is that Elik is a guy that stays outside over 80%, almost 80% of the time. So, of course, he's going to have more yards over some of these other guys that split more time between the outside and the slot. So
he was always the X. Is the X always on the line?
Well, I'm talking about outside.
Yeah, well, he was outside always.
Yeah, he's always on the outside. And that's where I'm at is like, okay, so he's always outside. So, of course, his volume is going to look better than everybody else because he's always outside in a particular stat. But he's in a lot of contested target situations, one of the highest in the class. And he has one of the lowest contested catch rates, very mediocre. And I look at it and I go, the data doesn't agree with the film, but I really kind of do like the film. If you're looking for a pure X outside, Z outside, doesn't matter. If you're looking for a pure outside wide receiver, I like him, but I have my concerns about him. What did you see on tape?
Yeah, when he's outside and it's vertical, because how tall is he? He's a tall guy. He's up there. His catch radius was really high. High pointed the ball. He wasn't to my. I was.
He's almost 6'2".
I didn't like him, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can't say he was bad or anything, like, because these guys going to go.
He's
probably,
just fine.
Yeah. He was just okay. It was just like, I thought I was going to see more. And some of it was because I wanted to see more physicality. I wanted to see him drop his hips, get in and out of a breaks. I think he's going to have issues that now he'll have much more time to perfect his craft. And it seems probably going to Stanford, you got to assume that a lot of those guys are really smart and they're hard workers and they're going to put the time in to get better. So his upside, I think, is there because of his size. He was just okay. I didn't see anything. What I'm looking for is what makes him special. So when we just talked about the Bond and the Golden, those dudes are fast. Like, okay, when I saw him, I go, he's just a big guy. Like he's a 4'5". He did nothing. Nothing made me say he's special. What makes him so good? And I didn't see anything. Like I looked at him. And then I look at Will Shepherd. And that's what I love doing. It's like, okay, well, why are people saying this guy is higher rated than Will Shepherd? And then, both of them are tall guys. And actually, Will Shepherd's a little taller than him, 6'3". And I go, well, I'd say I saw the same things. So it was really hard for me to grasp it when I knew what I thought of Will Shepherd and then what I thought of him. I didn't see anything that was going different. So I felt like this guy's more of a mid-round guy for me.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about one more thing that I'm going to ask Blaine about the strength of schedule, but we're also going to talk about how many wide receivers could the Tennessee Titans realistically draft, and also can the Titans afford to wait till day 3? What does the NFL tell us about that? This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. We're wrapping up our positional outlook on the wide receiver class for the Tennessee Titans. And Blaine, I had another interesting stat tied to that Elick Ayumanor from Stanford, and it was like, well, he faced the 95th percentile in strength of schedule, and Tutoria McMillan from Arizona faced the 63rd strength of schedule and all that kind of stuff. And I don't really want to dive into that, but I do want to dive into just the idea of the competition you play across from you. How much does that matter and translate to the NFL? Because if you're not producing against top tier talent, you're likely not going to be able to, maybe you are, but maybe you won't produce against the NFL. But if you're also underproducing or only producing because of a weak opponent schedule, then you may hit a big wall at the NFL. So it seems to me, but they're not in control of the schedule too, right? So like, does that ever factor in your mind when you're prospect evaluating? Excuse me, I'm short of breath. I'm crying.
Well, there is something to that, but I'm more so looking at, okay, does this team, let's say we're watching receivers, do they have a corner that's going to be a NFL projected type player, whether he's a sophomore, freshman, senior, whatever, and it's to see how they match up. And is he controlling the whole situation? That's not to say the guy can't make a play on him, but how's he running his route? So it does matter. I definitely look at that because I go, well, he's just tearing up that team. He's, they're playing Ball State. He just destroyed them. And I want to say, well, let's see what he looks like against a dude that's a dude, that we know is going to be in NFL. We're already scouting him, and let's see how he looks. So that's what makes it a little bit easier to see where they're at. But that doesn't say that they're not, if you're playing not a tough competition. So
right.
I would prefer to see them. And I want to see them rise. No different than if you're at a non-football, let's say, big-time school, you're at a smaller school. I want to see how you rise to your level of competition, because that's how you get on the map, because that's how I thought. I'm like, hey, I want to guard the best receiver on the other team. We play 3 teams out of conference. I want that guy man-to-man. That's what I would tell our DC every week. We played some, so that's what happened. I mean, and so I want to see how you like to compete, or is it a consistent deal, or is it when you play lesser competition and you just trying to destroy them? But when you play the big boys, you kind of go into your little cave, you kind of disappear, and you just show up every now and then. So it shows a little bit how competitive you are. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this: Day 3. Without a third-round pick, I know the Tennessee Titans are likely going to find a third-round pick, but you got 6 picks in Day 3.
6 picks in Day 3. Oh.
Now, how many wide receivers do you think the Tennessee Titans are drafting in this entire draft?
I would say 2.
I don't know why it hit me last week. I think they're going to draft 3. And I don't know if that's the right way to use your resources, but I think they walk away with maybe 3 wide receivers.
3, but here's what I'm saying. My third guy is, remember I told you, June 1st cuts.
Yeah.
That is another player. Yeah. So then it won't be a young player.
Right.
But it'll be a guy that's proven in the league. But I do think they have to bring in at least 3 more receivers at some point.
So we were talking about wide receivers drafted in Day 3 and their expectations. And I said, what's a good amount of receiving yardage that you think that should be expected of a rookie year 1 that's drafted in the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th round, Day 3? And we kind of landed on, what did Nick Westbrook-Akine do last year? Because we are kind of been talking about, like, you're just trying to replace Nick Westbrook-Akine right now. That should be your starting off point for these drafted wide receivers, right?
But you're saying for later round.
For a later round, Day 3.
So 5th, 6th, 7th?
Yeah, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all of them.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to be as high as
right. So I put in 400 yards.
That's a little steep.
Okay, so 400 yards.
How many did Brahina have?
Huh?
Last year.
Last year he had 490. Wait a minute, hold on, I just had it up.
But see, that's not a comparison.
497.
But I want to look at when he first got in the league. What he did, he had nothing because he's a special team.
He had 33 yards because he's under. His second year though, 476 yards.
Okay,
so I put in 400 yards because these are drafted players. From 2015 draft to the 2024 draft, 18 wide receivers that were drafted anywhere from the 4th round to the 7th round ended up with 400 yards or more. So the chances...
It depends on the offense, too.
Yeah,
now.
but your chances of your 18 is tough. Like last year, there was only one wide receiver drafted that reached a minimum of 400 yards, and that was Devon Vale out of Utah, who went to Denver, got 475 yards. In 2023, there were 3. It was Demario Douglas, Puka Nacua, and Dontavian Wicks. New England, Rams, Green Bay, respectively. And they were 6th, 5th, and 5th rounders. Then in 2022, Green Bay pops up again, Romeo Doubs out of Nevada. Green Bay actually has 3 wide receivers on this list, including Marquez Valdez-Scantling as well. So maybe there's something to that Green Bay machine for them to be able to find it.
Style,
yeah,
maybe that helps. But listen to that. Maybe we should lower that to the 200 and 300. I mean, man, and it's really tough, especially depending on what team and scheme you go to. If you throw the ball a lot, and speaking of that, I'm interested. What is actually the Tennessee Titans' identity?
Yeah,
on offense,
and that's what we know. There are 11 personnel, so there's opportunities to be had. But we also know they love to run at 11 personnel because I lowered it down to 250 yards. Rookie season, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round drafted wide receivers. Yeah. It went from 18 at 400 to 30 at 250. So still, that's from 20. That's 10 drafts.
I think
that's not a lot.
No, 250. That's not a lot. But
that's not a lot of wide receivers either.
No.
And that's where it kind of gets into a tricky situation because, again, we talked about on Friday, the Titans are in desperate need of a 3rd round pick. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking maybe they have to go wide receiver at 35 overall, even if there's a better edge player, because that's a big drop off.
Dang.
That is a massive drop-off.
You just educated me and just scared the living crap out of me.
I'm sorry. I didn't really want to scare everybody today. I really wanted to end on a more positive note. Apparently, Titans are have hosted already TJ Sanders. They are also hosting Xavier Watts today, the safety, and Donovan Jackson.
Dame, right?
The safety out of Notre Dame, which we're going to be talking about him coming up because I know you got some opinions on him. Donovan Jackson, the guard out of Ohio State that kicked out to left tackle for Josh Simmons the rest of the way. They also are hosting him today. So, again, those guys are 2nd round picks more than likely. But, man, taking a safety or a guard in the 2nd round when you need wide receiver and edge way more desperately, they're in a very big pickle. They need a 3rd round pick. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. We're going to have Coach Mack on for his weekly Mack Attack. We're also going to dive into linebacker class. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. 3HL's up next, and in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.